everyone, Auntie Tambarambaa, also known as Tammy Klinger here today. Thanks for joining me on my YouTube channel, and we're going to create this art journal page with these gorgeous funky flowers using Art by Marlene products. So I used a couple of pages from the Perfect Size journal. I do pop all the links below in the comments so you can check those out. I'm using the extra large golden oldie book. I'm also using the Bold and Bright sticky quotes and the Bold and Bright stamp set called Text Play. I've got a circly stencil there and a set of stencils, a pack of 3, which, what are they called? Artsy Designs, I think. And then I'm also using the watercolors of Marlene's, the Bold and Bright and the Whimsy and Bright. So I've grabbed out my pages and popped them together, and then I've grabbed out some of the gorgeous colourful stickers that are in the sticky quotes from the Bold and Bright collection. And I saw those sort of vertical stickers that would be great for a border or something like that on your art journal page, but I kind of decided they would also make great stems for flowers. So I've cut them to varying sizes. Some I've trimmed in half as well, just some of the fatter ones. And then I've made sure they're all at slightly different levels. And then I've actually gone through the sticker collection as well. And there's some beautiful rainbow flowers in there, so I've stuck them on. And then I'm simply going through the extra large golden oldie book and just finding a few florals that will go really nicely with that set as well. So all of the flowers are a little bit different. And this page was inspired by thinking about a garden and how, you know, it takes time, the energy and the time that you put into it before things kind of grow, and then that slow process of growing, and then all of a sudden it blooms and you think, wow, how did that happen so quickly? So I was kind of thinking about garden and life and healing, and yeah, so that's where I'm going with this page. So I've also grabbed a few of the those little I don't know what to call them, borders, I guess, and I have put a couple on my borders. And then I've grabbed out the both of the sets of the watercolors, and I've sprayed them with some water just to activate that color. And then I've actually just coming in and I'm blending the color into the background. Now, I generally, as I've spoken about before, I generally work in 3s. So same goes with watercolor. I often prefer to work in acrylics, but every now and then it's really fun to get the watercolors out, and I love how their colors blend together and mix, and that fluid moves, and yeah. So you can see I have added some yellow and I've added some red, and then I'm adding a little bit of pink. So I may not be using 3 distinct sections of each colour, but because red and pink are kind of blending together, I'm bringing in that sort of third bit now of that sort of toning. So then I'm building up that pink I really like, and I am thinking about where I am putting the colours. So I know that if I blend the pink into the yellow, I might get a little bit of orange, and the pink and the red will blend really well. So I'm just thinking about that as well as I'm going. Now, I'm not thinking too much more than that, except the colour, because this is just the first layer. So I will come in and add to this with some more background interest. This is just getting that colour down in between the little stems that are there. And I'm now coming in with a sort of an aqua blue colour and putting it next to the pink. I know that will mix really well, and also next to the yellow will mix really well and get a nice green. So yeah, I'm just continuing with that colour. I might go quiet while we wait for the next step. So I have dried it off completely here. And that's because I'm coming in with some of the inks. So I've actually grabbed the aqua and pink ink that was in the advent calendar last year. How awesome was that? And I've also grabbed a couple of distress oxides as well in other colours. But I'm using one of the stencils or masks, I guess, from the Artsy Designs pack. And this one has lots of different shapes in it. So there's those little mark making that I've added to the pink, and I've just added a few rainbows in turquoise, and then kind of a geometric pattern in the red. So I'm just using the little section. So the stencil has little sections of different patterns, and it's just so useful for your backgrounds. So I'm just moving it around to get different, a different sort of pattern in each colour. So I am matching up my colours. So the pink ink goes on the pink background, the red on the red background, etc. And that just helps to build up a layer and perhaps hide some of your blends a little bit. Yeah, and just gives a really nice background. So this is another stencil from that set, the Artsy Design sets. And it's like a wordy, lots of great words on there, like bold and play and artsy and joy and happy. So what I'm doing is I'm adding those to the turquoise areas as well. And some of them aren't complete because some of them are behind the flower stems, and that's okay too. So this is a really cool stencil. I'm going to look forward to using this one. I love words. So just kind of continuing this process, now using a bit of pink with those sort of arches and rainbow shape. Just probably filling in a few gaps where I felt like perhaps I didn't get as much mark making in the background as I would have liked. So now I've got the sticky glue and I'm just adhering those cutouts. So some of these, as I said, were stickers, but some were actually cutouts. So I'm just sticking those down. And then I've grabbed out the stamp set called Text Play, and it's got, as well as lots of awesome words on it, it's got a couple of long stamps that, have like different patterns to them, and I just thought they will look great down the sides of the stems of the flowers. So I'm just using a black ink, and I think I did use the ink pad from the Advent pack as well, and I'm just stamping down basically one side of each of the flowers, just to give a bit more quirkiness to those stems. And using the black will actually help define some of those flowers and help them to lift forward off of the colour in the background. So now I'm just using a paint pen, and I'm going around all the edges. So I'm adding a bit of doodling here and there. This is really fun. This is quite relaxing, this part. You do need to make sure your page is really dry before you get your paint pen out for this. I have learnt the hard way a few times. But yeah, I'm just kind of going a little bit messily around the edges because I sort of want it to look a little bit hand-drawn. Yeah, so I'm just adding bits here and there. Then I decide to outline the borders that I also put on and add a few more doodles to the edges and do a few scribbles and a few scallops around the place, just to go with that sort of quirky, playful style that is happening on the page. So now I'm using a thicker paint pen, so that was a fine one, but now I'm using a thicker one just to colour in a few of those scallopy bits. So now at this point, I sort of feel like there's a little bit of clash going on, like the background is a bit too bold. I'm not very good at toning things down, but the background's a bit too bold for those flowers, and so I imagined that the background would be a little bit more softer. So that's okay. What I'm doing is coming in with the white paint, which is lace, and I'm just adding white to quite a few of the areas just to soften some of the blending areas and just some of the sort of bolder, stronger colour. I just want to soften it out a little bit, and I do a few little mark makings as well, and I am concentrating on that area up the top there because I know I want to add some handwritten journaling to that part. So now I felt like that some of the mark makings I'd done were a bit too strong for the rest of the page. So what I'm doing is I'm coming in and I'm just adding some white paint down with my finger, fairly randomly, not worrying too much about it. And then I'm adding that circular stencil over the top and rubbing off the white through it. So because it actually removes larger parts of the white, you're left with that gorgeous circular shape. And I think this is when I felt like it started to come together. It just kind of softened that background right up for me. Can't help but add a few more doodles. So now I'm coming in with the white paint pen, and I'm just adding a few highlights here and there. And that just because I've added some white into the background, I now want to bring back a bit of white into all the bright colours that are in the flowers. So I did just some scribbling with the white pen, and now I'm coming in again with that lace paint. And I do this on most of my pages. I squeeze a little bit out and create little dots all over the into the background. So some of the little circles that were in some of the stamps, I'm putting dots in and just adding a few little fun dots to the flowers just to go with that sort of whimsy look. So now I'm going to come back in with my that stamp set, that text play, and I use Take It Slow as the jumping off point. So I stamp that down first, and then I add some hand journaling, and some of this is a mix of some thoughts that I had written down, a bit of a quote. So I've just sort of blended all together, and it just really suits what's happening for me in my life at the moment. And I have started yoga into my weekly practice, so this is all reflective of all of that. So I'll read you what I've journaled. I've got: take it slow. The healing process, in contrast to the trauma, is gentle and slow, the soft closing of a door rather than a slam. You matter. You are worth the quiet moment. You are worth the deeper breath. So the You Matter also comes from the text play stamp, and I really like mixing that up. But you'll notice I couldn't misspelt trauma, and then it looked awful. So what I did was I had little bits of leftover of some of the stickers, and I just cut them down and then added a couple of words onto those, so it just didn't look like I was covering up a mistake. It looked like it was meant to be there. So I did that with trauma, and then I copied that with worth. Okay, and so that is basically my page come together. So the other thing I wanted to show you, I did add a little sticker that says "You are beautiful" from the sticky quotes as well. So it's pretty much ready to go in my album. But I just wanted to talk about the bracelet that I'm wearing. So I recently had an overseas trip to America and stayed with family over there. And I have a gorgeous little niece called Riley, who is 11. And she made me this bracelet with the fluoro hearts on it, and I love it. It goes with my art, and also I bought a pair of funky shoes that it just happens to go with as well. So look at that. Perfect. So thank you so much, Riley. And this is a shout out to her. She started her own little business. She's quite the entrepreneur. So feel free to get in touch with me if you'd like to know more. I will leave you now with some close-ups of this funky bright page. It's lots of fun, and I like that there's a background story behind it, which most of my art journaling has. So I hope it's inspired you to get creative. Thanks for joining me today, and I'd love to hear from you.